question which I would like to pose to you this evening is, what does stuff? I'll do that again. The question which I would like to pose to you this evening is, what does stuff do? Now, as well as being charmingly rhetorical, this question also has a special relevance this evening. This question is about the relationships between people and things. And things and things. That doesn't count. The relationships between people and things. And things and things and things and people. My intention is to recognize patterns within these relationships through the medium of manipulation. Yeah. Close enough. This time. We live in a physical world, which is characterized primarily by the physical objects which we encounter within it. Circus arts are concerned with the physicalities of bodies and objects, and with demonstrating unusual skill in controlling their interactions. I am a juggler, and so my practice is largely concerned with the behaviors of objects small and light enough to be readily manipulated with the hands. My intention this evening is to consolidate the various mechanics of my practice as a juggler as a means of discovery. Translation of a process from conventional to unconventional application, with the intention of creating new knowledge of and around that process. I choose to begin with the ping-pong ring sequence because it illustrates several ideas which are essential in my approach to exploring what stuff does. The use of technical juggling as a research tool. The arrangement of action in time and space, and the recognition of specific properties of specific objects. Specifically, in this case, regarding the shape of the object, and the fact that the space that the object is in is mutually defined by the space that the object is not in, the negative space. Because it's your ability to recognize an empty space as a property of a physical object that allows basically any circus to work. It allows us to recognize relationships between objects which are not actually interacting. It's the reason that when I do this, you do that. Because although this is just empty space and this is just a regular flight trajectory of a ball, when I put my hands here, these spaces are, in some sense, properties of my body. Okay, so we have a shared understanding of an interactive and intentional event taking place. There's a clear starting point, there's a clear ending point. And in the middle, this illusion of happening. It's a trick. And we use this kind of subconscious abstraction all the time. For example, right now here, in this show, all of this here, this is my space. Yeah, the stage, this is my space. But everything beyond the front of the stage is your guys' domain. Yeah, we all know that. And if I decide to cross the line into your area, then you can feel how the atmosphere in the room changes. So I can create a sense of kind of interactivity and tension without actually having to do anything. And if I decide, for example, to come into your personal space, then the situation can become very awkward indeed. or maybe not. You got a bit here, get your space here. This is your space. Inside there, this is yours. I don't know if you can at the back. If you can't see what I'm doing, is I'm exploiting the negative space. What's your name? Kim. I'm exploiting the negative space, the naturally occurring negative space, around Kim's body in the audience in order to exemplify the illusory nature of circus arts. Yeah, you getting that? Thank you, Kim. Right. So, how about this? The space that the thing is in is mutually defined by the space that the thing is not in. The time that the thing is in the space that the thing is in is mutually defined by the time that the thing is not in the space that the thing is in. I.e., the time that the thing is in the space that the thing is not in. I'm talking about throwing. Yeah. You know throwing, you've done it. Yeah? What I'm getting at is that when we create juggling patterns, all we're really doing is arranging actions together so that they fill in each other's spaces. When all of the spaces are filled, we get a full pattern. And further tricks can emerge from a pattern like this through variations in technique. Pathway. And performance style. Performance style. So, that's juggling. So, juggling is essentially variation and arrangement of action, where the actions are those of objects being manipulated by me. Now, of all the possible contexts in which these mechanics could be applied, this evening I've chosen to focus on one specifically. And that's because I believe that its nature resonates with the nature of my inquiry. What does stuff do? Can our understanding of the world evolve through fluid experiential learning? Does my practice change shape to fit the parameters of a new subject? Is juggling liquid? Now, I do realise that this doesn't look very juggly so far. But we are still following the same process as we were with the bools. Variation and arrangement of action to create material. Developing a vocabulary which exploits the physical properties of liquid as opposed to solid. For example, the ability to simultaneously spill and not spill. But of course, it's not just the properties of the water determining the material here. There's also the properties of my body and the properties of the glasses. You will notice that this is not a coincidental object. I selected this object specifically because of its physical properties, its size, its shape, its material. The properties of the glasses determine how I can manipulate the water, and vice versa. Now notice in turn that those properties themselves are not coincidental. This is a designed object. We all know without even thinking that this part is for my hand, this part is for liquid, and this part is for flat surface. This object is designed to afford me specific actions and behaviors, such as holding, pouring, drinking, not catching. One way of thinking about this is that the actions afforded to me by any object are themselves metaphysical properties of that object. And just as the physical properties of the object interact, these metaphysical affordances also interact, creating a natural state of manipulation for any given set of objects. So, that's one method of translation. I define a process in work. I define a process in words, variation and arrangement of action, and then I apply that description to a pedestrian activity, pouring. And this kind of translation can provide insights into both the subject and the process itself. For example, in this case, I gain new ways of thinking about tools and systems and water. But it is quite vague. So now I want to look at another method of translation, and I want this one to be precise. A systematic translation with a definitive format which does not rely on language, or at least does not rely on local language. Many jugglers use a written notation called Siteswap. Can you all read that from where you are? By which physical patterns can be described as a series of numbers. The format of Siteswap works like this. Right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, etc. Each throw is represented by a number. For example, there they are. It's alright guys, you're only like 20 minutes. Shall I start again? So you don't mind, do you? It's not the kind of place you can not the kind of place you can sneak in late either.
We're not here.
Right hand, left hand. I'm talking about Siteswap, which is juggling notation. It works like this. Right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. You read it left to right, just like writing. Each throw is represented by a number. For example, the number 3. And that number tells you how many beats of action will pass before the thrown ball will come back to my hand. So, if I throw a 3, I have 2 beats of empty hands before I catch it. Does that make sense? Nice. So the next bit of the demo for this requires some difficult technical juggling. I wrote this bit, and then I realised that I didn't want to have to perform it. So I've cleverly got around that. I'm not going to perform it. Instead, I'm going to use my good friend and juggling colleague Jack, who's here. He's going to come up. Jack, would you step up? Thanks. Hello. Can you stand in the centre? This is Jack. He's going to be our resident juggler this evening. Thank you, Jack. Right. So, nice. Show us your 3. Can you do it with the clicks?
Is that what you want, yeah?
Yeah. He's good. All right, hold on. All right, so that's the 3. If I fill out this whole pattern with 3, 3, 3, etc., it's going to look like this. This might look familiar. And as you know, if you pay attention, you'll notice that each ball is being thrown in court once every 3 beats. Can you slow that down a little bit? Yeah, that's the same but bigger. Cool, and collect. Nice. Other 3-ball side swaps include a 4, 2, 3. Nice. 5, 3, 1. Let's do that one. It's a classic. Oh, that's alright, did not know. And we got any jugglers here this evening? Maybe 1 or 2. Abel, did you just survive? Nice.
Yeah,
do you want to donate the 3rd side swap?
Fuck.
This is
4, 3, 1.
4, 3, 1. No, you're thinking 5.
That's flat.
Oh, you give me one.
4, 4, 1.
4, 4, 1. Alright, nice. Nice, and left. Cool. And of course, all of those side swaps can be run together as a 3, 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, 3, 1, 4, 4, 1, like so.
That was nice.
No. You could have so got away. This is painfully honest. Yes. Very nice. Now, as well as numbers, we can also use squared brackets to show two balls being thrown simultaneously from one hand. Like so, and again. Or we can use rounded brackets to show both hands throwing simultaneously, like in this pattern. Bad hands. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Can you juggle that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, let's see it then.
I need another ball, don't I?
Oh yeah, you did. That was a test. Nice, keep that going. You just do half a step to your right. Other way, other way. Nice, right. Set the low ceiling.
Can I stop?
I'm just about to get out my telescopic pointing stick. The integral part of the show. So, in this pattern, these high throws in the right hand appear. These are the sixes. The medium throws in the left hand every time are the fours. The medium throws in the left hand are the fours. And the twos are the balls being held here, here, here. Wait, that's it. Here, here, here. And collect. Now, crucially, Siteswap works within a fixed format. So, although some patterns are more complex than others, the addition of more objects does not necessarily mean an increase in complexity. So, I can add 3 more balls to this equation, and although the juggling will become much more challenging, especially with this ceiling height, a regular pattern can still be written like this. One more thing, so the reason I'm interested in Siteswap for the purposes of this show is that Siteswap patterns have regular emergent properties. By emergent properties, I mean properties of a system which emerge through the interaction between its parts, which are not a property of any part in isolation. Properties of a system which emerge through the interaction between its parts, which are not a property of any part in isolation. Can you go to 5, 3, 4, please? Yeah, check this.
Sorry, I'm really ill, guys. I've heard me dying in the corner.
That's why you want some water. Can you do a step to your right, left, that way, that way? Yeah, that's good. Cool.
5, 3, 4.
5, 3, 4. So, a Siteswap pattern has a rhythm, and a shape, and a formula. This is a 5, 3, 4. None of which are properties of any object in isolation. And any of these elements can be isolated as a means of translation. So, you go. This is a 5, 3, 4. And what I'm about to do is another trick which looks and feels like a 5, 3, 4, also a 4 objects, but where the behaviors and pathways of the objects are totally different. Bear with me. Collect, 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 collect. That was great. That's so nice not have to do that. Now, in any notation, there is information which is given and information which is not given. In Siteswap, the given information is to do with rhythm and arrangement and relative time spans. The information not given is everything else. The numbers in Siteswap do not specifically refer to throws, or to balls, or to juggling. they could refer to anything. And in that way, you could say that Siteswap is liquid. So, if I recognize this action as a 2, and this action as a 2, Siteswap immediately tells me that I can run those two actions together continuously, as in 2, 2, 2, 2. It also tells me that I can run them in sync, as in 2, 2, in brackets, 2, 2, in brackets, or in opposync, which is an excellent word which I invented. Which looks like this. Do you see the opposynciness? Which I think is rather lovely. But what I think is more lovely, or more interesting, is that we can take this translation and we can kind of fold it back on itself, because I can write a pour now in Siteswap. In Siteswap, a pour looks like this. This first 2 is the glass pouring the water. The 2x is the water changing hands. The second 2 is the glass receiving the water. The rounded brackets show both hands acting simultaneously. The squared brackets show this glass and the water both being affected by the same hand at the same time. Now, it doesn't matter if that doesn't totally make sense. The point is, I like this. And so, what I want to show you now is a juggling routine which I'm creating by applying this Siteswap and variations of it to ball juggling, along with some of the pathways and positions which I used in the paddling pool. That was quiet, wasn't it? So where are we? Okay, so we understand that objects afford actions depending on the systems which they're in. My relationship with the water is dictated firstly by my relationship with the tool which I choose to manipulate it. and secondly by the relationship between that tool and the liquid. There is this essential difference between myself having an effect on the balls and myself having an effect on the glasses, having an effect on the water. Liquid manipulation by proxy of object manipulation. We also understand that written notation can be used as a tool for engineering emergent properties. In this notation, each letter represents an interactive element which I have chosen to recognize. Each arrow represents an effect which one element is having on another. The nature of the effect is undefined. Now, in the same way that Siteswap can engineer emergent shapes and rhythms, as we saw, this notation can engineer emergent affordances. Particular behaviors emerge in particular manipulation systems, and the addition of each new element compounds the potential action with its ability to act on and be acted on by each other element. I'll show you what I mean. Jack, would you come back for a second, please? It's fine, it's easy this time. Can you just stand here and hold these, facing that way, and I'll tell you, just put the front one at the back. Yeah, it's got to be quite quick.
All right.
This is a selection of elements which I am interested in exploring and exercising together. This is a series of randomly generated formulas using these elements, which I have then realized, refined, and reordered in order to create this short and unconventional ping-pong juggling routine. You ready? What? I'll do the thing. I'll tell you when to flip it. I'll tell you when to flip it. Right. Should be easier than the joke. Don't flip unless I say. Right. Myself, having an effect on the paddle, having an effect on the ball. Next slide, please. I create a system of the paddles and the ball which I can then manipulate. Next slide. I'll let you guys figure these ones out. Next slide. 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 Turn it the right way up. I'm building the tension. So now what I want to do is, I want to stop juggling for a minute. I want to take a bit of a wider view on these ideas, because I think there is a wider view to take. Because This notation, although it's very basic, it highlights a reality which is incredibly easy to overlook. That is, that our perception of any object is decided by the systems within which we have recognized and used it. Nothing exists in isolation. No element expresses all of its behaviors in a single system. So I submit this to you not just as a way of understanding juggling, but as a way of interpreting everything. Okay. This flip chart, for example, I recognize almost exclusively in the system ground chart paper. Yeah? And this system highlights certain qualities in the object. For example, its height, its squareness, and this large, flat frontal region. but if we recognize different systems, we'll see different qualities highlighted. So in a system of the chart having an effect on this pen, I would probably highlight the pen bar. Well, if I say that this system is going to be myself having an effect on the chart, then maybe I choose to recognize this nice bit of negative space down at the bottom, which of course I can exploit using my body. Yeah? So the negative... So the negative space... The negative space... as I was saying, oh fuck! So, the negative space on the negative space of the flip chart gives it specific properties in relation to my body. So, as we can see, the system of myself having an effect on the flip chart is revealing several new behaviors in the object. And as I have also just demonstrated, there is a reciprocal system of the chart having an effect on myself. So, as you can all see, there's a complex and interlinked network of systems at play here, and I would argue that the navigation of these systems can constitute not just performance, but the basis of our entire existence. We understand that each system of objects affords a unique set of actions and behaviors. When you look at the world, you're not just seeing objects, you're seeing potential action, you're seeing tools, and you're seeing obstacles. And that's your brain being affected by what you're seeing, because that's what it's designed to do. And the tool isn't just the tool is the tool as a part of whatever system it's a part of. And that's important, because what that means is that by interacting with tools in unconventional systems, we can change them. We can make them reveal qualities which were hidden by common usage. In conclusion, we live together in a physical world, which is characterized primarily by the physical objects which we encounter within it. Some of these objects are very, very big, and some of them are very, very small. Some of these objects are us, which means that there's one more translation left to make. Because if there's one thing that I think I've learned from making and performing the show, it is this. I am a tool. I am a tool, like a hammer, or a bat, or a glass. I'm a tool for any effect which my application achieves. The more I pour, the more like a glass I become. My body and my mind adapt to make me better suited to that behavior. When I pretend to get stuck in a flip chart, theatre. When I pretend to get stuck in a flip chart, I become a tool for facilitating your laughter. My behavior emerges as a property of whatever system I'm a part of. We have many words for this process. We learn, we practice, we train, we change, grow, and develop. We have tendencies, habits, and addictions. Tonight, I call this process tool becoming. What I'm saying is this: we exist. We exist. We are real and physical like objects. We have properties like objects, and we have qualities that are hidden by common usage, because we recognize each other as we recognize objects relative to the systems which we comprise. We are these monstrously complex entities, but we are confined by the same physical laws as a ping pong ball, or water, or cheese on toast. The fact that you are the you that you are is subject to your position in unimaginable systems of effect, many of which we cannot see or know. So we are all tools, but I think that that's wonderful, because what that means, and what I hope to have demonstrated this evening, is that we have choices. You get to choose what kind of tool you want to become. You get to choose the systems and the relationships which you propagate. If each combination of objects affords a unique set of actions and behaviors, then each combination of people affords a unique set of actions and behaviors. And each combination of objects and people affords a unique set of actions and behaviors. So we don't have to operate on a default system. You get to choose the systems and the relationships which you propagate. And those systems and relationships in turn decide which qualities you reveal and which you hide. Now, I'm going to go behind there for just a second. It's not the end. It feels like the end, but it's not the end. So, I've been thinking a lot recently, since I've been making this show, I've been thinking a lot about objects, and I've been thinking a lot about objects in systems, and I've been thinking a lot about people, and people as tools. Mostly I've been thinking a lot about what kind of tool I would like to become. And so, this evening, I think I'm ready to share my answer.